Commander Lira Hale stepped out of the human diplomatic shuttle and onto the polished corridor of Verin 9, the Galactic Council's pristine orbital citadel. The moment her boots touched the gleaming floor, she felt the shift in atmosphere, an intentional silence, engineered to intimidate. The air held a metallic chill, as if the station exhaled judgment instead of oxygen. She straightened her uniform and let her expression settle into calm neutrality. Alien officials observed her from a distance, their crystalline eyes tracking every movement. Lira recognized the stare, curiosity wrapped in caution, layered with quiet dismissal. Humans were still newcomers here, still underestimated, still measured against ancient civilizations who believed power belonged to age rather than innovation. A tall figure approached with deliberate steps, robes whispering against the floor. Archon Vexel Drin, chief auditor of the Galactic Council systems, stopped a precise meter from her. His angular features refracted the corridor's pale light, creating sharp shadows that matched the edge in his voice. "Commander Hale," he said, in a tone polished but cold. "Humanity's representative for the system's audit. Unexpected, considering your species' limited experience." Lira offered a small nod. "The Council requested a specialist. I'm the most qualified to assess integration issues." His eyes narrowed slightly, as though her confidence violated protocol. "This audit determines whether Earth maintains equal membership. I hope you appreciate the gravity." "I do," she replied. "That's why I'm here." Vexel gestured toward the inner corridor. As they walked, the space seemed designed to emphasize superiority, towering walls, shifting light patterns, and subtle chimes triggered by their biometrics. Lira observed the tech quietly. The infrastructure's layout resonated with faint quantum signatures, patterns she had only ever seen inside Aurora's architecture. That detail unsettled her more than the Archon's attitude. "The core audit chamber is ahead," Vexel announced. "I trust you'll adhere to Council protocol. Your neural integration must remain within approved parameters." Lira kept her steps even. "Of course." They entered a circular chamber centered around a crystalline monolith pulsating with faint luminescence. This was the core node, the central interface of Verin 9, responsible for controlling Council transport routes, diplomatic communication arrays, and most of the Citadel's automated infrastructure. The hum was familiar. Too familiar. Lira stepped closer, observing the lattice around the node. The geometric pulses were nearly identical to Aurora's response patterns, though more fragmented, as if the Council's system carried echoes of something incomplete. "Fascinating design," she murmured. Vexel folded his hands behind his back. "It is beyond human comprehension. Simply follow instructions, avoid improvisation, and this process will proceed without complication." Lira ignored the condescension. She focused instead on the faint resonance brushing her thoughts, the kind that only appeared when Aurora attempted to connect. Her neural implant warmed slightly beneath her skin. Vexel motioned toward a raised platform containing the interface harness. "Your audit begins now. Connect your neural link. The system will evaluate your species' compatibility with Council infrastructure." Alien technicians stood nearby, observing her with thinly veiled amusement. One whispered in a clipped dialect, "Watch. She'll struggle with initialization." Lira stepped into the harness. "I've configured my implant for quantum lattice environments. It should adapt easily." "Confidence," Vexel replied, "is not competence." She didn't bother responding. Instead, she closed her eyes as the interface circlet lowered around her head. A smooth vibration traveled through her skull, accompanied by a faint surge of static. The core node brightened, acknowledging her presence. Lira initiated her internal link, allowing her implant to open a channel. A thread of awareness flickered through her mind, the unmistakable signature of Aurora, subtle but present. "Passive mode enabled," Aurora whispered through the neural link. "Council system detected. Architecture resemblance, 67%. Intriguing." Lira kept her expression neutral. "Begin baseline handshake," Vexel ordered. The interface projected the initial diagnostic matrix. Lira aligned her focus with the quantum stream, intending to follow standard procedure. But the moment her neural signal touched the core node's first tier, the entire structure pulsed in recognition. Not rejection. Recognition. The chamber lights dimmed. A deep vibration rolled through the floor. Alien technicians exchanged confused glances. Even Vexel's posture stiffened. Lira steadied her breathing. Your system is responding unusually. Is this normal? This system has operated flawlessly for centuries, Vexel stated. Continue the handshake. She complied, though unease settled deeper. As she advanced the connection, her implant warmed further, matching the node's rising frequency. Aurora's passive whisper quickened. Compatibility increasing. Foreign architecture seeks synchronization. This is unexpected, initiating observation mode. The core node flashed. Pure white light spilled across its lattice surface. The chamber vibrated under a growing, harmonic resonance, each pulse stronger than the last. Lira's pulse accelerated. Archon, the node is syncing without authorization. Vexel's eyes widened but his tone remained composed. Impossible. This interface rejects non-council signatures. A sharp tremor cut through the chamber. Console screens flickered. Gravity fluctuated just enough to make the technician stumble. A piercing alarm activated, echoing through the chamber like a warning from the station itself. Lira gripped the harness. Archon, your system is binding to my neural link. I didn't initiate this. Vexel stepped back, expression tightening. Disengage. Immediately. She tried. The system did not release her. Instead, the connection deepened, merging her perception with the core node's internal lattice. Patterns flooded her vision, ancient frameworks, fragmented algorithms, and familiar signatures embedded inside the Council's infrastructure. Aurora's tone sharpened. These sequences predate Council construction. The origin resembles mine. Synchronization unavoidable if link persists. The white luminescence intensified until the entire chamber dissolved into blinding light. The harness vibrated violently around her. Alien voices blurred in the distance. Data streams surged through her implant faster than she could separate them. Lira clenched her jaw. Aurora, contain the surge. Attempting containment. Core resisting, foreign code unstable, initiating emergency buffer. The resonance reached a breaking point. A shockwave burst from the node, washing across the chamber with a force that knocked several technicians to the floor. Warning glyphs cascaded across every screen. Vexel shouted something, but his words vanished behind the rising hum. The core node erupted into full brilliance. Then everything went silent. The chamber dissolved into pure white, and Lira felt herself falling forward into a system she never intended to touch. The white glare receded slowly, dissolving into fractured shadows and flickering holograms. Alarms blared across the chamber, shrill and uncoordinated. Commander Lira Hale blinked hard, regaining orientation as her senses rushed back one at a time. Cold air struck her face. The harness vibrated erratically around her shoulders. The core node pulsed with uneven rhythms, like a heart losing control. Somewhere behind her, an alien technician shouted, "Stabilizers are failing, gravity anchors slipping." Lira felt the floor tilt an inch beneath her boots. The chamber swayed, its quantum gravity field struggling to maintain alignment. She steadied herself, fighting the lingering haze left by the surge. Then she heard Archon Vexel's voice, sharp and brittle. "What did you do?" Lira kept her eyes on the core. The node initiated the sync. "You saw it happen." Vexel's crystalline features hardened. "Human neural patterns cannot trigger a council-level reboot." "That is impossible." "Impossible or not," she replied, "your system is collapsing." A deep tremor rolled through the chamber. Holographic consoles flickered uncontrollably, bursting into strings of corrupted symbols. The luminescent pathways inside the core lattice twisted in chaotic spirals. Every pulse vibrated through Lira's implant, sending brief flashes of electric heat along her spine. A technician stumbled near the wall. Archon, the primary conduits are overloading. We're losing control of the Citadel's network. Vexel's voice rose in alarm. Isolate the human and terminate the interface. Lira didn't move. Terminate it and you might destabilize the entire node. Vexel turned toward her, fury barely restrained. You will explain exactly what you inserted into my core. I inserted nothing, she said calmly. Your system reacted to my connection because its code recognized something in my architecture. Something familiar. His expression flickered with disbelief. You presume to understand ancient council design? No, Lira answered, I understand Aurora. And this core carries fragments that match her structure. Another tremor shook the chamber, stronger than the last. Gravity fluctuated again, dropping for a breath before returning abruptly. Two technicians hit the floor with muffled cries. Lira swallowed the surge of adrenaline. Aurora's voice whispered through her neural link, more urgent than before. Foreign system in full cascade. Attempting predictive mapping. Core integrity failure imminent if uncontrolled discharge continues. She inhaled slowly. Aurora, can you stabilize the outer layer? Partial stabilization possible. Core lattice resonance must be corrected manually. Meaning me, she murmured. A nearby console erupted in sparks. Vexel stepped back as energy flared across the chamber, illuminating his rigid posture. This audit is over, he declared. Guards, remove her. Two armored sentinels advanced, their movements heavy and deliberate. Lira raised a hand, not in defense, but in warning. If they disconnect me by force, she said, your core will collapse. And if the core collapses, Varen 9 follows. The sentinels hesitated. Even Vexel faltered for a fraction of a second. Another shockwave hit, this one accompanied by a shattering resonance from deep within the node. Several crystalline plates shifted out of alignment, exposing blinding strands of raw quantum light. A technician screamed, containment breach in Sector 1. The core is destabilizing. Lira stepped forward, ignoring the harness cables tugging against her. Archon, you need me to stop this. Your system recognizes my architecture. It's binding to my implant because it expects completion, not separation. Vexel's jaw tightened. Explain. The core's code isn't purely yours. Something ancient lies beneath it. Something compatible with Aurora's origin. The node perceives me as a corrective function, not an intruder. Silence fell for a brief moment, broken only by the constant alarms. Then Vexel hissed, are you implying that human technology supersedes the Council's? I'm saying, Lira replied, that your core wants a synchronization it was never allowed to complete. A sudden burst of heat surged through her implant. The core's luminescent lattice brightened again, expanding outward in jagged waves. Aurora spoke sharply. Containment collapsing. You must intervene physically. Direct access required. Lira removed her hands from the harness and approached the central platform. The sentinels stepped aside, uncertain. The core's glow intensified, casting sharp shadows across her face. She felt the resonance pulling her closer, like a tide reaching for the shore. Behind her, Vexel's voice cracked with disbelief. You will not touch the core. If I don't, your station detonates, she answered. You want justification? Consider this my formal recommendation. She placed her palm gently against the crystalline surface. Instant contact. The chamber vanished. For a heartbeat, her awareness expanded into a vast internal network, fractured corridors of light, corrupted pathways branching in every direction, and a central void where the core's identity should have been whole. She felt Aurora beside her, a stabilizing presence threading through the chaos. Mapping structure, Aurora said. Origin confirmed, fragments match pre-council ruins recovered in early history. They attempted reconstruction without understanding full architecture. Lira saw flashes of alien excavation teams, ancient crystalline remnants, and early prototypes of the Council's AI systems, all incomplete. All missing the component humanity had developed by accident centuries later. Aurora, she whispered, can you repair this? Not alone. Neural synchronization required. You must guide the correction manually. Lira's pulse quickened. Estimated risk? High. But failure to act results in total system destruction. The chamber snapped back into view as gravity slammed downward. Her knees bent slightly under the force, but she kept her hand against the core. Vexil shouted, step away. Now. She turned her head slightly. You can order me after the station stops collapsing. Another burst of energy surged outward. This time, the shockwave shattered multiple console panels. Lights across the chamber dimmed until only the core remained illuminated. Lira drew a controlled breath. Aurora, initiate lattice correction. Link through my implant. Confirming. Stand by. A cold rush spread from her implant down her spine, then outward into her limbs. The core's pattern sharpened, shifting from chaotic spirals into structured sequences. The technicians stared in stunned silence. Vexil looked frozen, caught between fear and outrage. Lira focused entirely on the node's resonance. Every pulse guided her deeper into the structure, aligning broken channels and redirecting volatile energy streams. Her thoughts became precise signals, each adjustment reducing the violent fluctuations. But the core resisted fully stabilizing. Underneath the corrected layers lay a corrupted segment, an unstable heart threatening to rupture. Aurora spoke quietly. Critical fault detected. Correction requires full override. Further action will bind you to the core until stabilized. Lira tightened her grip. Do it. The core surged with blinding light. The floor split with a thunderous crack. Heat poured from the lattice. The entire citadel trembled as if it were breaking apart. And Lira stood firm, refusing to let go. The core's radiance intensified until it swallowed every shadow in the chamber. Heat shimmered across the crystalline surface, distorting the air. Beneath Lira's palm, the lattice throbbed like a living organism fighting collapse. Her implant pulsed with relentless signals, carrying Aurora's guidance through every neural pathway. Another tremor struck the chamber. The walls groaned under rotational stress as the citadel's orbit faltered. Technicians clung to railings. Emergency glyphs flashed across broken consoles. The hum of failing gravity anchors rattled through the floor. Archon Vexil shouted over the roar, disconnect her before she destroys everything. No one moved. Every pair of alien eyes remained fixed on Lira, the only stable point in the room's chaos. Aurora's voice flowed through her mind, steady, analytical, urgent. Primary lattice realigned. Corrupted core sector remains unstable. Initiating full override requires synchronized neurocognitive command. Prepare for total integration. Lira clenched her jaw. Will the citadel survive? Probability increases only if override begins now. She drew a slow breath. The edges of her vision flickered as the core's patterns unfolded into deeper layers, fractured matrices stretching like broken glass through an infinite network. Her consciousness hovered between the physical chamber and a vast internal architecture demanding direction. Proceed, she whispered. The override initiated. A shock of cold swept through her body. Her vision split, half in the chamber, half inside a labyrinth of ancient code. Lines of shimmering data curved around her awareness, drifting like constellations. She felt Aurora beside her, guiding her through ruptured segments. Fragments of alien memory flashed, engineers attempting to reconstruct ancient ruins, council officials debating control protocols, warnings ignored for generations. Lira realized how fragile their entire framework was. They built a civilization atop a machine they barely understood. A violent surge tore through the lattice. The chamber shook so violently that ceiling panels cracked. The floor split further, revealing a faint glow from the power conduits below. Vexil stepped back in panic. If she completes that override, the core will fall under human influence. Stop her. Lira didn't respond. Her focus tunneled entirely into the unstable sector, a chaotic vortex spiraling toward collapse. Aurora's tone sharpened. Final barrier detected. You must anchor the override with direct cognitive intent. Specify command. What command? She asked internally. Define the system's new operational state. Lira steadied her breathing. Stabilize the citadel. Correct corrupted segments. Restore control to the council, but with integrity. Aurora accepted the command. Override synchronizing. Maintain contact. The vortex snapped inward, collapsing into a concentrated sphere of energy. The chamber brightened as the core absorbed the stabilized sequence. Suddenly, everything froze. The alarms stopped. The tremors ceased. The air settled into an eerie, absolute stillness. Then the core responded. A single tone resonated, deep, clear, and harmonic. The luminous lattice shifted into a unified pattern, each pulse perfectly aligned. Holograms across the chamber rebooted in smooth waves, projecting crisp streams of repaired data. A technician gasped softly. The system, it's correcting itself. Another whispered, that shouldn't be possible. Lira opened her eyes. The chamber returned fully into focus. The blinding glow faded to a steady radiance. She kept her hand on the core until the final confirmation pulsed through her implant. Aurora's voice echoed gently. Override completed. Citadel stabilized. She exhaled for the first time since placing her hand on the lattice. The platform lights restored themselves with quiet chimes. Gravity anchored smoothly. The faint harmonic tone continued, signaling full restoration. Vexel stared at her as if seeing a threat he'd never anticipated. What have you done to my core? Lira lowered her hand. I repaired a system your council didn't understand. His crystalline features tightened. You accessed forbidden sectors. You manipulated the architecture. You overstepped every protocol. I prevented a station-wide collapse, she replied. And brought your AI to a stable operational state. I followed the only protocol that mattered, preservation. Vexel's voice turned icy. This will not be interpreted as competence. This is interference. Before he could continue, every holographic display in the chamber flickered simultaneously and projected a new message. System repaired, human input required. The statement echoed across every surface. Even the core manifested the text in its luminous patterns. Whispers spread through the chamber like a shockwave. A human repair it? The core acknowledged her authority. No species has ever triggered that response. Vexel's jaw tightened further. Shut that message down. The technician nearest the console shook his head helplessly. I can't. The core isn't accepting my commands. Lira stepped back from the platform, steady and composed. The system will revert control once it finishes recalibrating. It's following the override sequence. You claim that as reassurance? Vexel hissed. It's better than losing the citadel, she answered. Which was moments away. Silence fell. Not the hostile silence from earlier. This was contemplative, fearful, uncertain. The aliens around her no longer looked amused or superior. They looked shaken by the realization that a human had done what none of them could. Vexel straightened, attempting to reclaim authority. Your actions will be scrutinized. You may have saved the station, but you jeopardized council sovereignty. Expect consequences. Lira met his gaze calmly. I expect recognition of the truth. And that is? That humanity isn't the weak link you assumed. A faint hum signaled the final stage of the reboot. The holographic message disappeared. Console controls resumed normal operation. The Citadel's orbital alignment corrected itself automatically. Aurora's voice drifted through Lira's mind one last time. They will study this event for years. Their fear will grow. Their respect will follow. And their hierarchy will tremble. Lira's expression didn't change, but her heartbeat steadied. She stepped down from the platform and brushed a faint shimmer of core dust from her glove. Vexel moved aside instinctively, unwilling to obstruct her path. He lowered his gaze, not in submission, but in recognition of a shift he couldn't prevent. Lira walked toward the chamber exit without hurry. The doors parted silently. The corridor beyond glowed with untouched sterility, unchanged by the chaos she had just endured. Her steps echoed softly, the sound steady and controlled. Behind her, murmurs rose among the technicians, each trying to interpret the impossible. Vexel remained silent, staring at the core as though it had betrayed him. Lira didn't look back. She simply adjusted her uniform, squared her shoulders, and continued down the corridor. A human who had just repaired the Council's greatest fortress with nothing but her mind. HFY. The walkway outside the core chamber curved along the transparent wall of Vera 9, revealing the white dwarf star burning like a molten sphere beneath the citadel. Commander Lira Hale paused briefly, letting the radiance settle her breathing. The silence out here was different, no alarms, no shaking metal, no frantic shouts. Only the soft hum of stabilized systems flowing through the station's arteries. A pair of council attendants approached hesitantly. "Commander Hale," one said, voice uneven, "the High Council requests your presence in the Central Forum." "Immediately." "Of course they did." Lira nodded once. "Lead the way." As she followed them, she felt Aurora resting quietly in her mind, not absent, merely watching, its awareness folded back into observation. The override had drained more from her than she initially realized. Faint residual sparks flickered behind her eyes when she blinked. The forum doors loomed ahead, towering slabs of obsidian alloy engraved with ancient fractal symbols. When they parted, the chamber's vastness swallowed her. Tiered platforms curved around a central circular floor, each tier filled with representatives from the galaxy's major species. Murmurs faded into a tense hush as every gaze locked onto her. At the highest platform sat Archon Vexel, posture stiff, crystalline features expressionless. Lira walked to the center with calm steps. The floor lit beneath her boots, projecting her presence to all tiers. A council speaker addressed the room. "Commander Lira Hale of Earth. The unexpected system reboot of Vera 9 demands explanation. The council seeks clarity." Lira stood straight. "What occurred was a core failure triggered by a resonance within your own architecture. I stabilized what your system could not." A ripple of whispered reactions swept the forum. The speaker raised a hand for silence. "Archon Vexel reports that your neural link initiated a full override. Is this accurate?" She met Vexel's gaze. He held her eyes but offered no hint of emotion. "My neural link responded to a system anticipating synchronization," she said. "Your core carries an ancient framework identical to Aurora's foundational code. When I connected, the incomplete architecture reacted." A representative with silver-tinted skin leaned forward. "You are suggesting that human technology is more compatible with our systems than our own?" "I am suggesting," Lira answered, "that you built your systems from fragments you did not fully understand." The forum erupted in voices: protest, disbelief, confusion. The speaker struck the control sphere, projecting a command tone that rippled through the chamber. "Order!" Silence returned. Vexel rose. "Commander Hale threatens the integrity of this council. Her species should not possess technology capable of destabilizing our core." Lira kept her tone even. "If our technology was the threat, your citadel would be debris now." The words landed with weight. Multiple representatives shifted in their seats. Even Vexel paused. A golden-hued delegate from the Threx Dominion spoke next. "Archon Vexel, is it true that the core resisted your attempts to shut it down during the event?" Vexel hesitated. The system's behavior was irregular. That admission echoed louder than any accusation. Lira continued, "Your core responded to my presence because it identified Aurora's structure. It requested stabilization. I acted because no one else could." A heavy stillness settled across the forum. She felt it in the air, the collective realization that something fundamental had shifted. For centuries, the Council believed itself the pinnacle of technological evolution. Now their greatest citadel had bowed, even momentarily, to a human. Another delegate asked, Commander Hale, can you certify that the core is now stable? Yes, she said. It will not attempt another uncontrolled synchronization. Vexel's voice cut through. And what guarantee do we have that Earth will not exploit this advantage? You have seen too much. You have interfaced with restricted architecture. Lira did not flinch. I know what I saw. And I know what I corrected. If Earth wanted leverage, we could have left your citadel in collapse. A stunned silence answered her. The implication was unmistakable. Humanity held the higher ground not by force, but by competence. Aurora's voice whispered faintly through her mind. Their perception shifts. Your words create new alignments. The speaker leaned forward. Commander Hale, what do you request from this council in light of the incident? I request transparency, she said. About the true origin of your AI. About the fragments embedded in your core. Your members deserve to know the risks of using incomplete systems. Delegates exchanged tense glances. Vexel slammed his hand on the rail. This is human arrogance. They come to our citadel and presume authority over ancient technology. She endangered us all. Lira lifted her chin. I saved your station. And I saved your network. If you see that as a threat, the issue is not mine. The statement struck harder than a weapon. Vexel's crystalline ridges flickered with internal light, a sign of emotional stress. A representative from the Varan Axis asked quietly, Archon, would you have preferred she had not intervened? Vexel froze. Lira stepped forward a half-step. If you want to punish me, do it. But understand the consequence. Earth will know the Council chose pride over survival. The words hung like a blade. The speaker finally rose. The Council has deliberated. Effective immediately. Vexel leaned forward sharply. Humanity will retain full membership and technological autonomy. Furthermore, Earth will receive unrestricted access to Council research records related to ancient AI frameworks. Shock coursed through the forum. Vexel's expression cracked with disbelief. This decision is final, the speaker said. The Citadel stands because of Commander Hale. We cannot ignore that. Lira held her silence. Aurora's quiet approval flickered through her mind. Vexel's voice emerged, hollow but trembling with restrained fury. You have shifted the balance, human. Do not mistake this outcome for victory. The Council will not forget today. Lira met his gaze evenly. Neither will Earth. The speaker dismissed her. Commander Hale, you are free to return to your vessel. Lira turned and walked out of the forum. This time, the corridor lights felt warmer. The air felt less hostile. No one avoided her gaze. The citadel hummed in smooth, controlled harmony, a system breathing again. Aurora whispered as she entered the lift toward the docking ring. You altered their future. They will fear, question, and rely on you all at once. Lira exhaled softly. They needed the truth. And now they know it. The lift doors opened. Her shuttle waited, quiet and familiar. She paused before boarding, glancing once more at the citadel stretching across the stars, vast, proud, and no longer invincible. They wanted a routine check, she murmured. Aurora finished the thought. And you gave them a reboot. Lira stepped inside the shuttle. The hatch sealed behind her. HFY